What happens when 5 Filipino performers step onto one of America's biggest music festival stages and deliver a performance so intense that, according to one hilarious viral reaction, even the microphones are asking for hazard pay? That is exactly the kind of reaction SB19's Lollapalooza performance has been generating. And while the joke is obviously exaggerated, there is a much bigger story hiding underneath it. SB19 didn't simply perform at Lollapalooza. They were given an opportunity to introduce themselves, and potentially Ppop as a whole, to an audience that may not have known who they were before that moment. One reaction circulating online jokingly declared that the microphones at Lollapalooza would like to officially confirm that SB19 were, in fact, singing live. And apparently, after everything they went through, those microphones would also like to file for workers' compensation. It's funny, but the reason the joke works is because of what viewers actually witnessed on that stage. The microphones were subjected to high notes, harmonies, powerful belts, intense vocals, and physical choreography, all while 5 performers continued moving across the stage. The performance wasn't simply about standing in one place and singing. SB19 were dancing, moving, performing demanding choreography, and still having to maintain their vocals. That's the kind of performance that immediately becomes noticeable, especially when you're performing in front of people who may not already be familiar with your group. And that is what makes a festival like Lollapalooza so important. Unlike a traditional concert where most of the audience has already purchased tickets specifically to see an artist, festivals work differently. There can be thousands of people moving from one stage to another, waiting for different performers, exploring the festival grounds, or simply looking for something interesting to watch. Someone might not have known SB19's name when they arrived, but they could hear the music, turn toward the stage, see 5 Filipino performers delivering an energetic performance, and suddenly become curious. Who are these guys? What song are they performing? Where are they from? And perhaps most importantly, why have I never heard of them before? That curiosity can be extremely powerful. One song can lead to another. One performance can lead someone to search for the group online. That search can lead to more performances, more songs, more interviews, and eventually an entirely new fan. And this is where SB19's strengths become especially important. The commentary surrounding their Lollapalooza appearance pointed out that SB19 can sing live, dance, and deliver extremely physical performances. Their music can move between pop, hip-hop, ballads, and harder, more aggressive performance tracks. That variety gives them something valuable in a festival environment because they're not limited to one particular type of listener. And unlike performing in an arena filled primarily with existing fans, a festival gives them the chance to demonstrate that appeal to people who may have absolutely no relationship with Ppop. Think about how significant that is. For someone who has never listened to Ppop, SB19 could become their first real introduction to the genre. And first impressions matter. If that first impression is 5 performers confidently commanding a major American stage while delivering vocals and choreography at the same time, that can completely change someone's perception of what Filipino pop music can be. But there is another advantage SB19 brought with them to Lollapalooza, and that is ATIN. SB19 already have something that many artists trying to break into the American market spend years attempting to build: an organized international fandom capable of generating attention and demand. That is incredibly important in the modern music industry. An artist can have talent, great music, and an amazing performance, but none of that guarantees people will pay attention. You need people who will share the clips. You need people who will talk about the performance. You need people who will introduce the artist to their friends. You need people who will keep the conversation alive after the performance is over. SB19 already have that community. And that means they aren't entering the American market from absolute zero. Their fans can create momentum around every major appearance, and Lollapalooza provides exactly the kind of environment where that momentum can meet a completely new audience. This is why the Lollapalooza appearance shouldn't necessarily be viewed as just another stop on SB19's schedule. It could be part of something much bigger. Breaking into America is incredibly difficult. There are countless artists competing for attention, and even established performers can struggle to maintain relevance in such a crowded market. But a major festival provides something incredibly valuable: exposure to people who weren't necessarily looking for you. Someone waiting for another performer could suddenly hear Yento, wander over, and find themselves watching 5 Filipino guys performing with an energy that demands attention. And that is the beauty of festivals. You don't always have to convince people to come to you. Sometimes you simply have to give them a reason to stop and watch. The reactions surrounding SB19 suggest that they did exactly that. And this is where the microphone jokes become more than just jokes. When someone says the microphones need hazard pay after an SB19 performance, they're obviously exaggerating for comedic effect. But underneath that humor is recognition of the intensity of what happened on stage. The group pushed their vocals, they delivered harmonies, they hit high notes, they performed demanding choreography, and they did it in front of an audience that included people who may have been discovering them for the very first time. That is exactly the kind of performance that can create a lasting impression. And perhaps the most important question now isn't simply how many people watched SB19 at Lollapalooza. The bigger question is what those people did afterward. Did they search for SB19? Did they look up Gento? Did they watch another performance? Did they discover the group's catalog? Did they start wondering what Ppop is? Because international growth doesn't always happen through one enormous overnight breakthrough. Sometimes it happens one curious listener at a time. One person hears a song, another person sees a performance, someone shares a clip, another person becomes curious, and suddenly an artist who was previously unfamiliar to someone becomes part of their playlist. That's how cultural exposure spreads. And SB19 now have another major performance that can serve as an introduction to their music, their style, and their identity. So was Lollapalooza just another performance for SB19? Maybe, but it could also become one of those moments that looks much bigger in hindsight because of what happened afterward. The group didn't simply walk onto an American festival stage and perform for their existing fans. They had the opportunity to stand in front of people who may have had no idea who they were and show them exactly what they could do. They showed that Ppop can be energetic. They showed that Filipino artists can command major international stages. They showed that live vocals and intense choreography can exist together. And perhaps most importantly, they gave curious new listeners a reason to look again. So no, the microphones probably aren't actually filing for workers' compensation. But if they could talk, they might have a pretty convincing case. Because SB19 didn't just bring their songs to Lollapalooza, they brought the full performance. And now that more people have seen what they can do, the real question is no longer whether SB19 can get America's attention. The question is how many of those people are going to stay curious long enough to become fans.